In the midst of the great coronavirus pandemic of 2020, many of us are confined to our homes. And so I figured what I would do is go ahead and put a couple of brief videos out. They're going to be more like audio commentary because I'm not going to highly edit them. And discuss some movies very briefly, hopefully to provide you with at least a little bit of entertainment and some discussion points in case you want to, you know, have a conversation with me or with each other about these movies. If you have an opinion one way or the other on my opinion or on these movies in general, please leave them in the comments. Don't contact me directly. Leave them in the comments so that everybody can weigh in if they feel like it. The first one is going to be something of a rant. I am Movie Quotes Jones, and I have an unpopular opinion. So this is a list of movies that I absolutely do not like one bit, that I have no desire to ever see again. But the twist is that most of these movies proved very popular, and I seem to be in the vast minority by not liking them. That said, I firmly believe that every single person involved with any of these movies, from the actors to the production team to the scriptwriters, right down to the people who sweep the studio floor at the end of the day, should be embarrassed. Here they are in no particular order. Mamma Mia. Holy shit. Where do I even start with this movie? The plot is completely stupid, and I find Amanda Seyfried's motivations in this to be manipulative, selfish, and just treacherous in general. She plays these three chumps against each other basically the entire time. Meryl Streep's performance is even terrible, in my opinion. Not only all that, but it's kind of, I was going to say it's spitting in ABBA's face. I don't necessarily know if that's the case because I'm sure that they made a fortune in royalties, but I do like the band ABBA, and I do like most of the actors in this movie. Stellan Skarsgård and Pierce Brosnan and Meryl Streep in particular are all wonderful actors. In this, though, oh my Lord Jesus. And let's not even talk about Pierce Brosnan's fucking singing. Oh man, when I think about how much money that he must have made to be in this movie, when I think about like what truly great musicians like my teacher at the University of Georgia must have made in their heydays, it brings my blood to a boil. It's just one of the worst. Terrible story, terrible characters, terrible performances. This, I think, is the only movie that I literally rage quit. I got up in the middle of it, threw my hands up, left my friend's house, came home, sat on my couch, and pouted. Fuck Mamma Mia. Whiplash, and to a lesser extent, Drumline. Now, 6 of you, at the time of this recording, already know how I feel about Whiplash. My biggest complaint about it is that it's not grounded in reality whatsoever. If you've seen the movie, you know what I'm talking about. The stuff that this quote-unquote teacher puts these kids through would have gotten him fired basically within the first 10 minutes of his employment at this quote-unquote school for quote-unquote jazz. The problem that I have with this movie and Drumline, and I will admit that I've only seen bits and pieces of Drumline, is that people would often say to me, MQge, at least it's got people talking about, music and jazz and Drumline, and that's true. It did get people talking about these ideas. People talked about drums like they knew shit about shit. People talked about jazz like they knew shit about shit because they saw Whiplash and Drumline and thought that they were authoritative sources of information. So let me offer you, my friend, an analogy. Pretend like you're a med student. Pretend like you're going to school to learn how to be a surgeon. And a movie comes out about a surgeon who operates on somebody, who does open heart surgery on somebody using a rusty set of surgical tools without administering anesthesia in a Waffle House. And then once he cuts the dude's chest open, he goes in with his bare hands after just having taken a shit and performs the surgery, then staples him back closed with a staple gun and sends him on his way. You probably have a serious problem with that movie if some friend of yours came up to you and said, "Oh, hey, dude, did you see that movie about the guy who performs surgeries at Waffle House? God, it's so realistic, and it's got everybody talking about surgery." Get fucked. Scott Pilgrim versus the World. I know, okay, I know. Let me explain why this movie sucks. The premise is ridiculous, okay? Michael Cera, sorry, I got the name wrong. Michael Cera is maybe one of the most bland, boring actors that somehow managed to get a career together. He was good in Arrested Development, but that's because he was supposed to play a boring, uninteresting character who only makes one face the entire time. This movie, he's supposed to be like an action hero who all the girls in the movie fawn over, and I just don't get it. He's boring. He doesn't really have much to offer any of these women, and Ramona sucks. She is, a 7, I guess. I mean, she's not nasty to look at or anything, but I don't think that she's worth all the attention that is given. Not to mention, why is it that she's had sex with every single person in the entire movie except Michael Cera, and all she does is tease him along? The only person that I could relate to in this entire movie was Knives. Which also, that is a hilarious name. Credit where credit's due. Knives Chow is hysterical. What a funny name. I get that it's supposed to be a fantasy movie. I get that it's supposed to be kind of a quasi-musical. I get all that stuff. I just don't like it. The plot is stupid. The Michael Cera is horrendous. His character is a total drag. He's a jerk. And I don't know. I honestly cannot understand why everybody loves this movie as much as they do. I just don't get it. Resident Evil. If you know me personally, you know that I am a huge, huge fan of these video games. In particular, the first two. The Resident Evil, I have the director's cut at home, and Resident Evil 2 especially. I am longing for the day that I can afford a PS4 so that I can play the Resident Evil 2 remake. However, this movie is a complete slap in the face of diehard fans of the series, and let me explain why. Number one, why is there a character called Alice? Why is she a thing? We have plenty of characters to choose from. In the second movie, they at least included Jill Valentine, although a horrible caricature of the character that we're presented with in Resident Evil and in Resident Evil 3. In the video game, she's thoughtful, cunning, clever. She knows how to use weapons, but not super duper weapons. She still gets blown back when she fires the Colt Python, or especially the rocket launcher. But anyhow, about Resident Evil, why is the main villain a licker and not the tyrant? Why is there a licker in the first Resident Evil movie at all? There certainly weren't any in the first game, and hunters were way scarier than lickers. Why does none of the movie, except for seconds of the runtime, take place in a house? Resident Evil, MQge, there was a lab in the game. I know that. It was the last level, and you spent the least amount of game time there. Where'd you spend the most amount of your time in the game? In the mansion. Resident Evil. You spend the time in the residence. The zombie makeup, I guess, was okay, but it was just not faithful to the game at all. It was called Resident Evil, and it had zombies and a licker, and they escape on a train at the end. I guess that's as close as it gets. I don't understand why the movie wasn't about Chris Redfield or Jill Valentine. Shoot, even Marvin Branagh would have made a better main protagonist than this fictitious Alice, who was nowhere to be found in the first two video games. And while we're on this topic, who are the rest of these guys? Rain, played by Michelle Rodriguez? Kemper is that little wussy guy that ends up getting eaten by the licker at the end? The guy that Colin Salmon played? None of these people were in the first video game, or the second video game, or any of the video games. Why were they in the movie?
Oh, Jesus! Oh, God! Oh, Jesus, God!
All right. Fellowship of the Ring. So, I didn't particularly care for this book either. I read The Hobbit and absolutely loved it as a kid. I think I was in the 5th or 6th grade when I read The Hobbit. Then I started Fellowship, and I got about 5 or 6 chapters in, and I went, okay, I'm bored. I can't do it. I can't get into it. That's fine. Fellowship of the Ring comes out, and I don't like really any of the actors that are in it. And the ones that I do like are just boring. That's the whole problem with this movie. It's boring. The soundtrack is drab and it just drones on and on and on. The entire thing is super, super overproduced. Like, it looks like everybody was just trying too hard, and what they got out of it was a boring, overproduced mess. A horrendous monstrosity. Wasn't fun to watch. Couldn't get into it. Didn't sympathize with the characters. Elijah Wood plays this whiny wuss who cries and whines his way through the entire movie. Not a fan. Not a fan. Not a fan. Star Wars Episode 3, Revenge of the Sith. Now, I know what you thought I was going to say the second that I said Star Wars. You thought I was going to name any of the sequel trilogy movies. Well, they're all pretty bad, too. But this one I picked out for this list just because this is the one in the prequel trilogy that everybody says is really good. Now, it's better than Episodes 1 and 2, but that doesn't make it good. Number one, the special effects didn't age particularly well. Number two, the movie was over-dependent on said special effects. The fight scenes were well choreographed, but not believable. Especially the part where Anakin and Obi-Wan are like floating on these rocks through a river of lava. Okay, yeah, right. Yeah, right. Padme is kind of turned into this like barefoot pregnant housewife figure. Or is it Amidala? I talked about this during my review of Episode 1. I'm still not sure what her actual real name is. I don't know if she's Padme or Amidala, if she's a queen or a senator or a what. Her character's kind of all over the place. And then she dies during childbirth because she lost the will to live. She just died of heartbreak. I don't think that's a real thing. And if it's a thing that they did for dramatic effect in this movie, they didn't do it well enough. So those are the only movies that I could think of off the top of my head immediately that I just have not much good to say about. And I'm putting this online knowing that you're going to disagree with me. So let's start a conversation. Let me know which of these movies that you agree with me on and which ones you think I'm dead wrong about and why. I'm open to your opinion. And hopefully this will provide those of you who watch my videos with, a little something to do to break from the doldrums of working from home and then, continuing to stay home. Let me know what you think. Tomorrow I'll do a list of movies that I do like so that way I don't come across as a complete negative Nancy. Still got a couple of projects in the works, but all the time that I got to spend working from home and practicing is causing me to be slow. Anyhow, let me know what you think. And I will talk to you later on. Peace out.